Hey, this is a follow-up to the video earlier. It is March 21st. This is Neil, and I'm going to talk about the new sign-in endpoint. So the old sign-in endpoints have been removed. The new sign-in endpoints all go through one base route, which is auth, and there's just a single endpoint for sign-in. So whether it's Google or Apple, they both go through the same thing. Now, the one difference is with Google, you get back an ID token from response credential. So you pass in handle credential response callback, whatever you want to call it there. The callback gets response.credential, and that's the ID token. Notice that, that's the parameter. The Apple version is somewhat similar, just adding an event listener. Apple sign-in calls this function when this gets fired, brain's a little off, based on this initialization of the button here. And then in that, you'll have, because it's an event, the details contain the actual data, and then in that is authorization code and ID token. And so the endpoint takes both of these, both code and ID token, yeah, that's been renamed to route auth. And let's take a look at what happens there. So when an ID token comes in, it will actually detect based on ISS, and I can't remember exactly what ISS means here, but that's the source of the token. If it's Apple, then it does the Apple code, and if it's Google, it does the Google code, but otherwise it does everything else generically across the board. So that way we can start to add more identity providers without having to continually create new endpoints. And this endpoint uses the map path structure stuff that I had come up with, so it should be a little bit more standard. There will be a login logout option, which are not filled in at the moment, but the rest of the stuff is filled in. And it's kind of funny, you know, the Google login page using Chrome, it has all these warnings about, you've got these third-party cookies that are going to be blocked. And so you go to issues and you look at what cookies those are. And what you find is they're all Google. So I'm just ignoring these right now because, as you can see, these are Google cookies. So I'm assuming that since we're using the FedCM that will get fixed. But login works the same as the previous video I showed. It's just going through a different endpoint. So if we go to network, we'll see the auth sign-in endpoint. And passing in the ID token, and then the response is JSON and all that good stuff. Apple is the same way, but Apple does not have those cookie problems. This is the dialog you couldn't see in the previous video, and I can log in with other methods, but I'll just use the password. Same thing, pops the event, gets the success, and yeah, and you'll see the response there, passing in both the code and the ID token, and in either case, it actually verifies that the ID token is correct, that it's been signed by whatever entity that is, Apple or Google, and then gets the information from it. There is this slight bug where I'm still not seeing the name in the Apple sign-in. I noticed that. So it's not in the ID token. And by the way, if you want to parse some of these out, I added some nice little helpers. So let's just copy this ID token. Let's go to a new tab. Go Surfey me, test endpoints. Now you can do JWT and then pass in, I think it's token, and it will parse that out. So that's a good way just to there's probably a ton of web services that do this, but that way you can see this isn't verifying the signature. That's the signature. There's three parts to a JIT, JWT. There's the header, payload, signature, but it does parse out the header and the payload so you can see what is inside that. And see, we can see ISS is Apple, and that's how we know on the server side how to verify it with Apple. What else? So there's a ton of new little functions to help with this, but I don't think there's anything else to show here. So I'm going to end this early. So this is the new auth sign-in endpoint. So it works with both Google sign-in and Apple sign-in. And in either case, you need to pass in an ID token parameter. But with the Apple sign-in, you also need to pass in the code. And that's that.